Sure. Okay, I guess I've done it.
Well, they're all in my drawer. It's like green dots.
What's in your drawer?
The green dots.
Do we, I don't know if we have that anymore.
We do.
Oh, we got the ordinance.
All right, but I'm in there looking for something. I'll try to remember.
What did the green dots represent?
Like
Completed.
a check.
The green
Completed
dot
that
means
test.
complete. The yellow means working towards completion, and red means maybe it's problematic.
In terms of joining?
No, the whole system,
Oh, design wise?
everything, ordinance,
Oh,
billing,
okay.
funding,
Okay.
sites.
Yeah, I haven't.
operations. Um,
I see, yeah, no, I thought it was a physical.
It was at
Great.
a workshop we had to go to with Lynette.
Well, that's great. I thought maybe it was a physical representation of the houses.
No,
Oh, their story.
Yeah. Wow.
Story, the only one's on. Peter.
Hey there. Can everyone hear me?
There's the two of them. Yeah. Oh, JB. She coming tonight? No. I'm not sure.
no, I think
Or-
she's just on contract now and then.
Lynette.
Lynette usually is.
I
You
did
got,
forward the meeting invite tonight to JB in the event she is able to join.
Oh, you did?
everything went well with the last surgery.
I'm sorry.
Everything went well with the last surgery.
It was, yeah, it was a stent. Yeah. He's done good. And what? Sure.
Yeah, it's exciting. We're ready to go. Super ready. All right. Okay. Victoria, how are you? Would you mind putting up the agenda?
Am I allowed?
You will be momentarily. Tori, can you make that bigger on your end?
Sure. Um,
Yeah, that's better. Thanks. Right. So we'll take a minute, we'll take a look at last month's minutes. And we'll get an update from Peter on the ledge probes, design, permitting. Any updates on the timeline and next steps? We'll have a discussion on the opt-out letter to landowners. There's also some discussion on um, follow-up letters, maybe to even the folks that are opting in, but that might come later. And discussion on wastewater user fees and costs for landowners that are wanting an additional hookup where there's no building in place. We have a final ordinance, talk about that, and easement updates. And, well, we had to cancel the school board meeting for tomorrow, and Peter can give an update on that. And if there's any grant funding and outreach updates. All right, with that. Bree, would you mind putting up last month's meeting minutes? I don't know if it's possible to make that bigger too.
That work?
Folks that haven't seen this yet, you want to take a quick look?
Yeah, I couldn't find it. Is it on the website?
It is on the website.
Right.
Debate.
Well, I'll motion to approve them.
Page. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconds. Any discussion? Changes, revisions? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, hi JB. Peter, would you like to jump in on the ledge probing, design update, permitting, timeline update?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We've had a busy month with a lot going on. We were able to get 2 days of ledge probing in, which went really well. Along the force main route, we kind of filled in a few of the holes where we weren't entirely sure what was happening with bedrock surface. In addition to that, we probed deeper along the forest road on the town forest parcel. And the main purpose of that was to help inform some of our kind of bedrock mapping that we're working on, that Amy's and Jeff Hoffer are working on, to try to kind of firm up our model and predictions on groundwater flow around the school and the disposal field area. So both days were very successful. That was great. In addition to that, we were kind of blessed with another day with the passive seismic testing, and this time we actually got the Vermont Geologic Society survey was out there, and he actually filled in some of the data that the water supply folks had gotten. I don't remember when that was, last fall, and was able to process that very quickly for us, which was awesome. Amy's having a great time kind of refining the model, and she gave me a sneak peek of it this afternoon, and it's looking really awesome. So we debated whether we kind of share some of that with you now, but I feel like we're still waiting on some data, and thought it was better just to wait and give you the whole picture once it's firmed up. We are still waiting on this very specialized groundwater dating sample, for a lack of a more technical term. Jeff Hoffer sent that away to some folks in the Midwest, I believe, and this guy's literally been on a research project, like out on a boat for the last month, and I think he's back now, and we're just waiting for the results to come in.
That test has been taken, you're just waiting on the results?
Yeah, it was taken quite a while ago, and we were informed by the lab that it was going to take longer than usual to get the results because of this guy's research project he was on.
Okay.
So anyway, that should be coming pretty soon. We did have one sort of pharmaceutical. Well, it wasn't a pharmaceutical, but it was kind of a random, just over the detection limits pop up in the school well. And we're not really sure what to make of that, if that's real or not. So we're going to probably retest for that round of sampling just to see what we find the second time. And then I think some of you saw that we've scheduled, this is kind of another, the town of Wolcott and our team has been kind of blessed with some a bunch of different I don't know quite how to describe it, but opportunities to have research folks kind of using Wolcott as a test site. So the passive seismic, for example, it was really awesome that we were able to use that equipment on the Wolcott site to help find bedrock levels. And then likewise, Jeff Hoffer knew that they were looking for well sites to do this down borehole scoping. And so we wanted to wait till kids were out of school, but we're actually going to be sending a camera down and looking and trying to map the geology going down the school well, looking for fractures and getting a better sense of the transitions between sand and till and bedrock and some of the shallow fractures and deeper fractures. So I think that will be kind of the final thing that will help us paint our hydrogeologic picture, so to speak. And it was a kind of an extra step that will help us with some pieces that are a little bit inconclusive. So that's happening. We are pretty much at the 60% design level. We were able to meet with Ashwak and Lynette in the last month to go over some of the variances for the tanks, and we're working on refining our presentation on that for Ashwak to make it a little more clear. And we've kind of cranked through all of the comments from the 30% design and have been fine-tuning those, and I'm in the kind of the final review process of that to get that phase buttoned up. And then in addition to that, we're pulling together our engineering services agreement for the final design piece. And we have a date on the calendar, I think, for next month to meet with Lynette and kind of go through that. So that will be coming to the town and Linda and the select board as an amendment to our existing contract. What else can I tell you?
Any other permitting?
Yeah, permitting. Thank you. So our wetlands biologist and wildlife biologist has done some additional wetland delineations along School Street that we kind of knew we had to deal with, but were just like little isolated pockets. So that's been done. We've been surveying some of the new additions to our connection list. So that's been happening in the last month. I think they're probably about halfway through that and have another day where they'll go down School Street. And then while they're at it, they'll pick up some of those wetland flags that are now there. She's done the bat survey and the rare, threatened, endangered inventory. Still kind of waiting for those results, but I didn't hear anything, so I think that's a good sign. And we are starting to kind of pull all that information together and get those documents together. Probably the biggest, so of all of this, kind of the two holdups that are slowing things down a little bit are the additional data that we're wanting for the hydrogeologic investigation, the down borehole scoping, and the archaeology is moving a little slower than I would like. Not so much on our consultant's end, but we haven't really heard much from Scott Dillon over at the SHPO office. So hopefully we hear from him. We have been sort of tentatively authorized by Lynette to keep moving with the phase 1 recommendations by Charlie Knight, our archaeology consultant, and he is able to get going on that in mid-June. So Alex is working with some of the landowners to make sure they're aware of the fact that we'll be doing that work. And hopefully Scott doesn't have any additional areas he wants to investigate, but if he does, we'll tack him on. And hopefully that's kind of the last of the archaeology, but we'll wait and see. I think that's most of it anyway.
Easements?
Oh, easements. I know David has been kind of cranking on them, and we have sort of a final draft. I think the next step really is to start that outreach with individual landowners and get the very specific easements signed and filed. So there hasn't actually been any progress on the like formal easement recording or anything like that, but I think we're getting close. I am waiting for a draft on the school easement from David, but I'm imagining that there'll be a little bit of back and forth on that as we help David kind of refine that and get the various pieces in there that we think the school board will want. And thanks to Linda, we've kind of been working through some of the town forest easement questions and issues, as well as working with David on kind of the V-Trans right-of-way stuff and ironing out anything that we might have to do for that. So that's all moving along, maybe not quite as fast as I was hoping, but we're making progress.
Thanks, Peter. A couple quick questions. So the ledge probing, did you find out the results right away? Any news, positive, negative, or just more clarification, I guess, on your end for the design?
Mostly more clarification. A few areas bedrock came up a little higher than we had originally shown on our plans, which means a little bit more bedrock removal, but nothing terribly significant or problematic.
The pharma results in the school well, if that's verified, it sounds like you're going to do another test, but when we meet with the school board, is that going to potentially be a red flag? Because if they're saying there might be some pharmaceuticals in there now, and now we're going to put a community septic up there. I'm just a little concerned about that.
I don't think so, but that's the main reason why we kind of concurred that it was best just to postpone that meeting and not have preliminary discussions.
Yeah.
Everything I was hearing from Amy today suggested that there really isn't going to be much decent evidence that there's a problem. But I think we need a little bit more time just to like iron that out, and it would be best just to wait and hear that directly from Amy and or Jeff, and kind of how it all comes together.
And I forgot if did we verify with Elliot that will we have everything we need before their next meeting next month? in June?
Yeah, I was kind of holding off a little bit to hear what Amy ended up finding out today, but to respond to him, and probably I'll want to circle back with her. Are you okay there?
Sorry, we saw something in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I think I was going to look, I'm pretty sure the down borehole scoping that we're going to do is after that meeting. So I didn't want to respond to him quite yet that we would be in there in June if we still were hoping to have that data in advance. With that said, my preference is to try to get there in June. And at that point, I think we're going to be pretty close with at least having something to show them and talk about.
Is that the third Wednesday that they meet?
What?
Is that the third Wednesday that they meet?
Yes.
I think it is, yeah. Which I think puts it around maybe the 18th. I'm just looking real quick. 4th, the 11th, yeah, the 18th. And I think we were scheduled to be out doing the school well stuff on like the 24th or the 25th. So I'll probably respond. I'll check in with Amy in the morning and I'll respond to Elliot. But I'm guessing we'd want to kind of stay penciled in on their agenda, and then we'll just see how things play out over the next month.
And if we had to delay till July, that's shouldn't be a big problem. Do we need anything more formal from the school board other than their sign off of the easement?
I don't think so, no. I think that's the main thing. And in some ways it might be easier and better just to go in there with one solid presentation that lays it all out. And then, an easement that's already been vetted by the two attorneys, that hopefully addresses all of their concerns. I think that could probably be pretty smooth and straightforward.
So it could be June or maybe July.
Yeah,
Do they meet in the summer? I don't even know.
Yes, usually they do, but, so one of the things David is wanting is a easement from AOT to go over the bridge.
yeah.
He doesn't really like the permit 111.
I should check in with him. We were calling Nate Covey over at V-Trans just to get his take on it. And
Yeah,
then,
I emailed that Robert Inklinger, whatever, but he's on vacation. He's out for a while. So I don't
okay.
know. I just wanted to check and see if there was gonna be anything, if it was required or what.
Yeah, we'll work on tracking it down too, Linda. It was our understanding that the 1111 would cover it. And in our conversations with other V-Trans folks, we hadn't heard anything suggesting that we needed to get a formal easement.
Right, I would have thought they would have told us by now, but.
Yeah. If we need to, I don't think it's that huge of a deal. But we certainly would want to be moving that forward with everyone because we know that V-Trans doesn't always move super fast.
Sorry.
So either way, that's on our radar now, and we'll iron that out between V-Trans and David and make sure we're all covered on that. I will, as long as we're talking about V-Trans and the bridge, there is an update on that everyone should be aware of. And I don't know how much I shared at previous meetings, but our original plan on both of the bridge crossings, both on School Street and Route 15, were originally to just directionally bore underneath the stream to install the force main. And we ended up meeting with one of the directional borers at ECI, Engineers Construction, and kind of showed him our plans and showed him where the bedrock surface was. And he pretty much pointed out how I guess I'm trying to think of how to explain this, how it could end up being a very costly and expensive way to do it, depending on what they end up finding for the actual real bedrock surface when they're boring under there, and how they end up hitting it as they're coming across. And at the end of the day, we kind of concluded that that was not the best way to either go under or over the stream. And so we decided we would attach the force main to the existing bridge, which we weren't crazy about because both of those bridges are not in great shape. And anyway, that we ended up meeting with Carolyn. Her name will come to me, but one of the bridge experts who's been at V-Trans for forever. You actually might know her, Jim. And she looked at that bridge on Route 15 and pretty much told us that she didn't think they would end up approving any sort of an attachment structure to the side of the bridge with the force main. And her recommendation was to sort of build a carrier bridge, like an independent carrier bridge, ideally right outside of the right of way, that would, we're pretty much talking about like a steel structure that the pipe hangs on. So not much different than what we're already talking about, but with its own like little mini footers or foundation and a way to carry it. And her recommendation on that was a couple of things. The main thing is that if and when they decide to replace that bridge, it will be on the town to pay for that, the replacement costs or the repositioning of the force main on the new bridge. So that's kind of this unknown expense lingering out there. Whereas if we can design this carrier bridge, which probably will be quite a bit cheaper than what we were originally thinking for the directional boring, we can keep it kind of out of the right of way, then no matter what V-Trans does there, they won't end up, impacting that sewer pipe.
I have a question. I'm wondering if it would be possible to combine a pedestrian bridge. If we have to build something to support the pipe, would we ever consider a pedestrian bridge? We sure could use one there.
That's a really cool idea. We hadn't considered that. We were actually starting to talk to a potential sub-consultant, who did a similar little bridge for in Waterbury for a water line. Actually, it might have been a sewer line. But that seems pretty viable, Bruce. Or if nothing else, maybe maybe instead of just one I-beam, maybe you have two I-beams and the pads are there, and then maybe someone else at another point can take it to the next step and have pedestrian bridge right over it.
It's the kind of thing you might get some grant money for if we were lucky.
Yeah. Tori, maybe that's something you and Seth can think a little about.
We talking about the bridge from the Wolcott store to the parking lot?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So we would need another easement.
We would need another, well, the town owns one side, am I right on
Right,
that? Yeah,
right.
and so we would need another easement from Village Builders and why am I spacing his name?
Fred Martin.
Yeah, Frank Martin, who
Fred. Yeah,
Oh, Fred. Yeah, Fred, my hunch is Fred would be supportive of that as long as it didn't impact any of his infrastructure. He seemed overall just very excited about the project and supportive of it. So, but we haven't had that conversation yet. We have taken a look at that spot and it definitely drops off quite a bit on that side. And the span that you have to kind of straddle gets reasonably wide. So we're kind of looking into it a little bit more. Unfortunately, on the upstream side, there's already that concrete retaining wall and a better abutment that would have been much easier to kind of support the structure that we would put in. But the more we looked at it, we just didn't feel like it was great trying to snake the force main on that side, kind of adjacent to that structure that they have right on the eastern end, the barn right on the road.
Peter, can you remind us, is the force main going to be on the upstream or downstream side?
Our current plans have it on the downstream side.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the route we're heading right now. Hopefully next month I'll have some more updates on that.
I just wanted to acknowledge Tori had a question in the chat. Tori, do you want to just ask Peter your question?
Sure. Before we get away from this new bridge or this own like independent structure for this part of the force main, like, are there any flood resilience angles that should be evaluated strongly with constructing something like that?
No, I mean, we've talked about that internally and we are figuring we're going to want it at least as high as the bridge deck structure. We're other than some of the other constraints I described, we think the downstream side is obviously better because the bridge kind of would, um, you know, collect any debris or any problems on the upstream side first. So we're going to try to get it at the same elevation. The design that we saw from Waterbury kind of had the sewer pipe hanging below the main I-beam or steel, and we're hoping to have something where the pipe is actually a little bit more encapsulated with steel around it. So that's kind of our goal or plan. So we'll certainly be thinking about that and advocating for that in the design. With that said, there's only so much we can do, and we can't put it too high because then you have to actually get it up there. So.
And my question in the chat was just a follow-up to the earlier discussion of the ongoing archaeology investigations, and I was just curious if Peter was able to share a map for where that would be happening.
I probably like right now because I could get my fingers on it reasonably quickly if you want to look, or I could just share at least with you the draft ARA if you want to see it.
Yeah, I'm happy to look after the meeting unless the committee also wanted to see that.
Okay, sounds good. I think that's about all I have. I guess Jim, you probably want to talk a little bit more about timeframes. I feel like a couple of these things we talked about, namely the archaeology and the additional hydrogeo investigations we're doing, are bumping us out farther than I was really hoping for. When I started getting concerned about that, I did have a conversation with Lynette that actually Tori was kind of Lynette's open office hours, and Tori was on the call. So, and Lynette sort of reiterated that the internal grant deadlines that were originally established from ARPA really aren't something we need to worry about anymore. It's really that final date, the end construction date, end of 2026. So it's not ideal that some of the stuff's getting pushed, but it doesn't concern me too bad yet. We'll hopefully be able to have everything kind of pulled together by end of July, or at worst case, sort of end of August. And then Ashwak and others will have their various permits to review. And then, hopefully late in 2025, we can be ready to put things out to bid. So I think all in all, the original ARPA goal of having it out to bid in August wasn't a particularly great one anyway, because it's not a good time to put things out to bid. So all in all, I think we're kind of doing okay and reasonably on track.
Okay, so if that was just an ARPA, the August, getting the bids out, August was the ARPA goal.
Yeah, that was
now that's changed. And now we're looking at sometime in the fall for getting that bid package out. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That gives the contractors enough time to do the bidding, and then we have a winner.
Yeah, exactly. One of my strategies that I've been talking about internally at Stone is to sometime like mid-fall, maybe before it's actually going out to bid, start kind of talking to some of the contractors that we think might be well suited for it, getting it on their radar, talking it up, maybe sharing our draft plans, just to make sure, we have interest and have people thinking about it.
Any questions for Peter?
I seem to recall that David wanted to, but I can't find the email, that he wanted to have just a little meeting, not a committee meeting, but a meeting to go over the process for getting the easement signed.
I seem to remember that too, and I think that
I
would be
can't
really,
find it, yeah.
I think that'd be a really good idea. I think we're at about the point where we should be kind of talking through that a little bit more.
But that's more like a committee thing, because you're not gonna come here, we're gonna get them to sign it, or, or assign people that, well,
I mean, I'm happy to come up and talk through that process, but yeah, I mean, we probably wouldn't be sitting down with any of the landowners or anything like that, right?
So this meeting, Peter, Linda, David, at that meeting, and anyone else that should be at that meeting?
Sorry, I
maybe
didn't.
you.
Me, yeah, besides.
You, Linda, me, and David, is that what you said?
Well, it's just a matter of how we gonna reach out to them, are we gonna go to their home, are we gonna set up office hours and have them come here? We need a notary, that's about all.
Right.
It's not a big deal, but we need to have a process to.
They're gonna need time to review it and maybe have their lawyer look at it.
If they want. We can email them a draft.
Is that something?
Well, if we can, we don't have to talk about it tonight, but it's something that needs to be worked out when the easements are ready.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're at that point where he's close enough that we need to kind of to figure out that process of exactly how we're reaching out and who's doing what.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Peter, do you know where that Waterbury pedestrian bridge is?
Yeah. You know where the parking lot is?
Yeah.
It's right there on that's School Street also? Am I making that up?
It's off.
I grew up uphill from there. It's Lincoln and Stowe.
Yeah.
Lincoln and Stowe.
Which ironically, I think they're replacing that bridge maybe this summer.
Yes. because it's about to fall down.
Right.
What happens? Thanks.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. Thanks for your work.
You're welcome.
And then we'll set up that other meeting with this subset of this group.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let me just add that to my to-do list and I can make sure I find that email and circle back with David. That'd probably be good and a good opportunity for us to kind of talk a little bit more about the school easement and maybe even the town forest one if necessary.
All right, maybe we'll cover, we got JV on the line here and cover, we had a smaller meeting yesterday regarding the, with JB and Peter, regarding the landowner opt-out letters, and Alex at Stone took a crack at drafting that letter, going over the lenders that want us to opt out and to see if they met our opt-out criteria or not, and how we were going to respond to both the yeses and the nos and the opt-out. So in other words, if they met the opt-out criteria and if they did not, and how we were going to handle that letter. Do we want to put that letter up?
Yeah, I have it up, so I'm happy
You have
to
it?
do that. Yeah.
Okay, and before that, Peter, do we want to share the breakdown chart that Alex had of the totals, opt-outs, and do you have that available?
I don't know if I have that available. I'm sorry.
Or we could just verbally cover that. I think we had summarized that table.
Yeah, I should have asked Alex to send that over to me because yesterday I just had him. Essentially, I mean, I can verbally share where we're at. We're in really quite good shape with the number of folks who have either not responded or have responded no that they want to opt out. I think it was a total of 7, 2 of whom just haven't responded, and 2 of whom actually meet the opt-out criteria. And so then we have 4. Does this all sound right from our meeting yesterday? I think there's 4 that were, claiming they wanted to opt out, but then don't meet the criteria.
David, that's 8, and you said
So we
7.
had Philip Teal.
Oh, that is 8, right?
We had candidate Patricia Williams. We had Stephen Wolf, who had a certificate. He can opt out.
So you can or can't opt out.
He can, because he has a new system since 2007. The other one that can opt out is Frank Davis. Those 2 could technically opt out if they want. They qualify. Scott Bowers was one that didn't qualify, who was a no. Who's that?
So is it?
Oh yeah, I could share the email.
And the other one is
You have it, Peter?
I have a kind of a good summarizing email that I maybe isn't quite.
Allison Hayes is another one.
Yeah, Allison Hayes and Dominic.
What was the status of that?
So we
They
have
don't qualify.
7 total, 2 no responses, so that leaves 5. So we have 2 meet opt-outs, we have 3 that do not meet opt-out. I think that's.
All right, so I think we've heard from one of these down here. I think we must have heard from Kurt at this point.
Shannon Hewitt. Across the street. She doesn't qualify. Phil Till doesn't qualify. Williams down here doesn't qualify. That's 3.
And then you said, and then as far as the no,
Four.
as far as the no. So we actually have five, we
Five.
should have five that do not
And
meet,
Bowers, five, that's the five,
and Kurt,
six.
so we must have eight then. Sorry, Peter, is there a way you can make that a little bit bigger?
Not sure I know how to do that in.
Your three dots on the top, right? Control plus.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what was it that I should be?
you could
Control.
control plus or like control
Oh.
scroll up with your mouse.
Oh, plus, that's a new one for me. Oh, nice. I like it.
You're gonna love it as you get older.
Oh, believe me, I need it. Is that actually working over on that end?
Yep.
Great.
Three, so we have three that do not meet either well shield, or floodplain. And then on the top, so we actually have six. So the original numbers must have been eight, Peter, because we have eight here, right? So we have three no's on the bottom and
Yeah,
three no's on the top.
right.
Did you say, did you get a late response from Kurt? Is that what you said? That's been updated.
For some reason, I thought we did, but maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. This is, for what it's worth, this is from a week ago, so it's possible one or two of these have changed, but it seems like pretty much what we were looking at yesterday.
Okay, so we have eight total, two no responses, and we have two that meet and six that do not meet. Okay, and Peter, would you mind putting up that draft letter?
Yep, I'm gonna stop sharing just to make sure I.
And friends, I do have some fairly substantial recommendations on the language on this. There are, among other things, incomplete sentences. So
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
I can email that, and I think I think it comes off, it could come off a little better in a couple places. So Pete, I can either put that up or email it to you, but there are some suggestions I would like to make.
Okay, that sounds great. Do you want to just bring up your version then, or?
I can.
However you guys want to do it. We, as you know, did this kind of on the fly today. I
Sure.
did work with Alex on this in the morning, but.
I understand. And Pete, you've worked with me for a long time now.
This is your version, JB?
These are suggestions.
Yeah.
I know it's in bright red. That's just Microsoft Word being bitchy, but I'd like to suggest that final notice in all caps is probably comes off as being, some sort of official act of the town. And as we discussed yesterday, it's not an official act. This is information. This is the version to folks who do meet the opt-out. I'd suggest that we call it a final notice of opportunity to connect.
Okay, wait, so,
This is no connection meets opt-out.
yeah, okay. I think I would have preferred to focus on the other one, but I definitely agree
We
with
can
what
do
you're
that
saying on
too.
that.
Okay, we can do that too.
Now, this is for the people, did you say this is for the people who qualify to opt out?
Yes.
Okay,
And honestly, my edits would be basically the same for the other one.
Okay, yeah, I guess I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a distinction between, like, they're definitely in a different category scenario.
They are, but again, it's not, I think coming final notice, that feels like a bill that you're getting before your utilities are shut off. And I know that that would certainly be attention getting, but I think it could be off-putting for some folks. So I would just suggest, first of all, in this paragraph, clarifying that you would like to opt out of the system means you will use your existing private on-site wastewater treatment system. And that it will be legal to continue to use your private on-site system so long as your property meets the criteria in the ordinance. Okay. We wish to make sure you're aware of the provisions that would apply should your existing fail in the future. I just think a little bit of, we want to make you aware that these provisions would apply if your system fails. If it's sometimes in the future it fails, you will be required to connect. You will be responsible for the cost of connection. Town's engineering consultant advises that today cost would be somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. I don't think we need to tell them that it's less than a replacement system. As of today, the best of our knowledge, it costs you that much to connect. And then to ensure your property is eligible, this one I think is important on this version for the people who do meet the criteria. We urge you to verify that your property meets all of the following 3 criteria. Make it clear that you're telling the property owners, we want you to make sure that you meet these criteria. So it's not the town's job to make this determination. You better be sure that you meet these criteria. Call if you want to. Outside the flood hazard, 2,500 square feet of permeable unbuilt land upon which to replace your system, leach field without overlapping your or your neighbor's well shield. I would say this is, you are able to sign an affidavit. In other words, you can verify under penalty of perjury that your system's never failed. About paying for the costs. If you change your mind about connecting, please fill out the attached confirmation form returned by June 15th. So you can include the project. I think that's all great.
JB, can you scroll up? I had a few comments that I sent to Peter and Alex earlier, but I think we should have a link to the ordinance here.
Okay.
So they can, where I think, I don't know, did you mention it there?
I think it's up top.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did revise that. The version I was going to share had
Well,
that,
this is the
Jim.
one this is the revised version that you guys sent out, Pete.
At
And this is
3:30.
for,
I think so.
Okay.
I took the latest thing that.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the one I brought up from that email I wasn't going to look at this one yet. Quite frankly, I wasn't even going to do this one yesterday. I think when I said I would do a letter yesterday, I was mostly looking at the folks who did not meet, and then we would go from there. But the version I have up for does not meet does have a link.
Yeah, it does.
Although,
Well, this was linked. So this is the one you sent out. You guys sent out with Jim's edits.
yeah.
And the link is correct.
so I mean, the only difference that we would say in the ones that you have indicated you want to opt out, we would say, based on the criteria below, you do not meet one or more of the criteria. And instead of thus, it will be legal to continue to use your existing system. We would just remove that.
It will not be.
We will, or say it's, I don't know, is it legal? Can we say it's not legal? Or I don't know, but we wanted to say if your system fails, you'd be required to look up.
Okay, this is the does not.
It'd be very similar.
Yeah. And again, this is not, I'm trying to make the phrasing clearer and, hopefully cut down on the questions people have after receiving this. Pete, again, this is the one that you guys made Jim's changes and sent back out. Why don't I mark this up and I can send it to.
Okay.
See, this is not clearly written, Pete. That's why I'm being so, that's why I'm even
Well,
bringing it up, which I
so-
don't really want to do.
That's
You know,
fine.
opt-out
We've,
criteria parentheses. I'm just trying to make it read more,
I
read in
don't
a
have a
way that
problem
people will
with
be
you
more
making
able
it
to
better. That
understand.
sounds great.
Yeah.
I will say
Yep.
we have put out several letters already that
Yep.
we have been building off of. And some of the format is just based on the way it's already gone out. So that's not to say it can't be improved.
So how about could we leave, Peter, Alex and JB to merge those two versions into a final version? I think we have the gist of what we want. Folks have comments on this one. You guys are seeing this for the first time.
I'll just send my recommendations to Jim, Peter, and Alex and leave it at that.
Okay, sounds good to me.
As long as it's on one page.
And we were discussing this, we should get this out fairly soon, right? Although given the timeline extension a little bit, we have a little bit more wiggle room, but we should get this out fairly soon.
Yeah, I think it needs to, we would need to change the date. If we can't leave it at June 15th if we don't get it out fairly soon. Yes. And it would be
Right.
best to start to fine tune this with these folks.
So we'll have the two versions for the meeting the opt-out and not meeting the opt-out.
Yep. And was the idea, I know we had talked about the town sending these out as certified letters to make sure that folks get them. We still talking about that, or?
Linda, what do you think? Alan?
You can.
I don't know how- I don't know how
Doesn't mean
that
they'll
works.
pick them up.
You said there's no pay?
What we usually do is we certify them and we send them snail mail.
Do it both ways? That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah. Because then if they don't sign for it, at least they're getting it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Jim, I have to leave before the end of the meeting.
Okay, you want to talk about the grant stuff?
I could just provide a brief update and also suggest that someone else take over note taking for the remainder of the meeting.
Bradley's gonna take some notes. Just volunteered. Thank you, Bradley. Tori, I'm sorry, I missed the email about the manhole grant until just very recently. So I don't know if you want to share that as well.
That's okay. That was one of my brief updates, just that the decorative manhole cover grant through the Vermont Arts Council for design was recommended to submit a full application. So I'll be working with Michelle to submit full application to design decorative manhole coverings. I did reach out to Alex Peter, who had been helping with a little research on that end. So I'll also keep following up with him.
That's great.
I also connected with Belinda earlier this week, and it sounds like the Clean Water SRF loan is the last reimbursement request for that is being submitted, so that's going to be all set, and the funding will now be coming from the ARPA / general fund pot. And Peter, I did want to also connect with you on that because LCPC is also working on an amendment for the CRP grant to cover final design as well. And so just clarifying the invoicing when it gets to that stage to make it clear to Belinda like where things are being billed to. Amy's been doing a good job at like labeling that on the top of some invoices, so I can just follow up with her about that for this next final design phase, if that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe reach out to both of us.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. And the last grant funding update is just that Linda and I had resubmitted a congressionally directed spending request again. And just just in case for all of the developments in the project and unknown costs. So we'll see what happens with that.
And we amended the Northern Borders grant, or you did, I tried. We amended the Northern Borders grant.
Yes, to
for-
clarify
for-
where the match for that grant is coming from.
Right,
How much did we ask for in the congressionally directed?
million. They're kind of questioning us about that, seeing as they think we have all the money, but we had to explain we might not have all the money. Now we have to build another bridge.
But that's gonna save us money. It's
Is it?
what Peter just said. Right, Peter?
Not making any promises on saving money, but I don't think it's going to be any more
Less expensive
that's
than
for
the
sure.
directional pouring.
Right. And more predictable is actually more importantly. We don't have to worry so much about unexpected circumstances. This directional boring guy kind of told us some nightmare stories of things going wrong, and once you're into it, it's, you kind of have to finish.
Troy, were you done with the grant update?
Yep, that's my update unless folks have
Okay.
other questions, and I'll hop off now to head to another select board meeting and see you guys next month.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Tori.
Bye.
Yep.
So that leaves us with Linda, did you want to give a little?
It's not much to say other than May 3rd, the ordinance became official, had met its statutory timeframe.
No comments or anything?
Nothing, quiet. So it's in the books.
We're good. Woo-hoo. We should celebrate that, everybody. Big one.
That's a big
Seemed
one.
like I was our last big,
I was very
Public.
nervous about it.
what's that?
I was very nervous about it.
Public hurdle.
Mhm.
There's no stopping us, right? I mean. Knock on wood. We had also an outreach update on the agenda. We haven't done a whole lot of outreach as of late. We were gonna do some front porch forum posts, but around I think now might be a good time to
Yeah.
announce the ordinance is out there.
And then we'll be reaching out to people about their easements. The attorneys worked on.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah, individual easements. It's probably good now before the next vote. When is that anyway? June.
Next one for the school vote.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
They could probably set it at tomorrow's meeting.
No, it's
It's already set.
Yeah.
It's on the website.
Oh, the school?
it's either the 4th or the 11th of June. And
Oh, they don't need 30, they need 30 days.
yeah, but it's been set for a while. They had a special meeting, May 16th, I believe.
So are you saying we should get out ahead of the
Yes,
potential front porch
Yes.
forum discussions?
yeah,
Okay.
I think now's a good time.
So I have talking about the ordinance, pointing them to website. So the final version of the ordinance is on the website, probably? Yep. Because it hasn't been changed. And then the landowner easement, contacts. We haven't come up with do we want to wait till we come up, you and I, Linda and Peter, meet with David before we come up with a protocol before we do this?
I can just tell him the attorney's drafting the easements and we'll be reaching out to you shortly, that's all.
I like the idea of maybe them coming here and if we can get everyone to come, we might have to do it more than one day, but give them a couple of days, a couple of different times to do it.
Yeah, and you gotta remember they're working too, so. And so you either have to have Belinda here or Deanna to notarize. So there should be some early evening meeting times that they can come, or, you know, people that are retired can come in the day.
But who would need to be here? Just,
Either Belinda or Deanna, because it has to be notarized.
well, do we need to be there or David?
Not really. I mean, we're not gonna sign anything. So I think we need to, if you want to talk about it, I envision that David would send out the easements and somehow we would either get them to them physically or email them a copy of it, or maybe drop it off for them to review with their attorney and give them a deadline when you would like them to sign it.
I don't, timing wise, Linda, Peter, for our June meeting, would we have enough of would we have the easement letter out to the landowners in time? I'm just thinking that could we use the June meeting if we carved out an hour of that meeting for folks to come in to ask questions about the easement and have David here? And give them time to look at it, send it in the mail to them, give them time to look at it and say, if you have any questions, please come to our next wastewater meeting. And Peter and David will be here to answer your questions. I don't know. You're muted.
I'm not sure if David would come and,
Sorry, I was just going to chime in that we had talked about that, and I originally liked the idea, but I'm realizing how much we actually have to talk about at these meetings, and it might be hard to hold the actual meeting and then still have that going on also.
well, he charges $275 an hour, so
David,
I really don't think he needs to come. I mean, he can explain it enough to us.
Will we be able to answer their questions about the easement, I guess?
Yeah, because I don't think it's the legal questions that the problem. They need Peter more than they would need David.
But so just so I'm hearing, so Peter, I'm looking at the clock, we're actually potentially going to get out an hour early tonight. Is
an hour early, huh? Is this officially till 7 now, huh?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, we've been going waxing and waning on our times and meeting twice a month, meeting once a month. Some agendas are lighter than others. Mostly it's your updates as you know, that we're meeting to find out what's going on and then this opt-out letter. Well, yeah, I just thought if unless you want to have a separate time, I would feel more confident if at least you were there, Peter, trying to save you going to 2 different meetings.
Yeah. No, I think that could work. And you're right. If we kept the main meeting to an hour and left another open office hours for another hour, that seems reasonable. And I was thinking this meeting I had some kid shuffling to do, but I was thinking that it would be nice to have a in-person visit up there sometime soon, so that could work out.
Would that potentially work for the June meeting? Would we have the letters out in time?
I would think we can have it out by then. Yeah. I think we should hold off and see what David has to say, but I would think we should be able to have that meeting with him maybe next week and then hopefully get it out with a week from that. And then in that letter say
So the reason,
this time's available.
reason I'm asking is like, maybe I should hold off on the front porch forum post. So I can say, well, you can come to our next wastewater meeting to discuss any questions you might have about the easement. If you're a village resident,
Yeah, I think if you want to say that, I'd maybe hold off till we meet with David.
Okay.
Our next meeting is the 17th. Does that sound right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anybody else have thoughts on outreach, front porch forum posts? Anything on the website we want to promote or direct people to?
Are we gonna knock on these people's doors?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, any ideas on how we want to handle the folks that haven't responded at all?
Well, one of them was waiting, wants to talk to us, isn't it? Don't they?
Douglas?
Yeah. No, we've said. Any questions?
Yeah. We have a phone
I
number.
don't know who else hasn't returned theirs, other than
Shannon
Kurt
Hewitt.
Billings.
Shannon Hewitt, Ken and Patricia Williams, and,
We can't find them.
okay.
Do they pay their taxes?
Yeah, I'll have to check
See,
with
they had a
Belinda.
PO
They
box
used to own that, place across from, in Hardwick, across from the pizza place, that food place, but they're closed now. I don't,
That was a glass shop or something?
no, they did, smoke restoration or damage restoration
Okay.
in there.
Oh, one thing that we didn't talk about on the agenda that I'm just remembering now and glad you're still on, JB and Peter, the discussion of what this grant should pay for where we don't yet have a building, but folks want a stub and potentially a septic tank. So we kind of had this discussion in a separate meeting. And just wanted to get a sense from folks. So we have enough in the grant money to pay for additional septic tanks, is my understanding. And the stubs themselves are not going to cost a whole lot to put in, but from a permitting perspective, so we have several parcels, including Bruce's, and Grimes and what was it we saw? Margaret. Pedro that requested an additional stub for their parcel where there's no building in place. And then we had some preliminary discussion about this grant being able to pay for the stub and the new septic tank, but in exchange, the landowner would have to pay, essentially pay their wastewater fee, even if there's no parcel there. So they're going to get a free septic tank, but they would have to pay for the wastewater fee once we start charging.
I thought I signed that for my property for a tank anyway, is that, do we know?
Yeah, and so, and I didn't see that, that letter about the additional capacity requests. And so like someone like Bruce that wanted a tank and a stub there. I just want to get a general sense of how folks feel about that thought of this grant paying for the septic tank in exchange, the landowner, upon receiving a septic tank, would the onus would be on them to pay the wastewater bill, even if there's no building there. And I know we had some discussions about holding that allocation for a certain amount of time.
Mhm.
A year or two was our initial discussion, and then potentially taking that allocation away if we needed it elsewhere. But then we'd have the septic tank in place, so we have to figure out those logistics of that. And then even if we put the stub and the septic tank in, the landowner would still have to get a DEC permit late if they decided to build 2 years later. Get a wastewater permit, have it surveyed, designed, installed from the septic tank to the house because there's no
Right,
house there now.
yeah. But
That would
Jim,
be pretty
think,
simple, Jim. Sorry
yeah,
to cut you off,
no,
Julie
go
Beth.
ahead, Pete.
Like
Yeah.
our plans, we could probably help that landowner and just literally have them show us where that house is going to go and where they want the well. And I'm not saying it would be completely free, but it's not going to be like a septic design level of a permit.
I guess I'm confused. Does it matter? Well, it might be some land. I thought I just signed up for a tank and it's like, does it matter if you have a house or not? Do we care? Can I just sign up for a tank and pay my dues or whatever? Does it matter? I don't understand the house being there versus a piece of land.
Chris, you're best off if you are collecting ongoing revenue. So putting the tank in and having it stubbed and ready for construction, it's a great deal for the landowner, even if they're paying the fees, and it's a great deal for the town because you add to the incoming month-to-month revenue for the wastewater system.
Right, I understand that, and I thought that's
Yep.
where I just simply signed up and we have a tank without a building.
So we have you at 4254. Did you want more than one?
No, well, sure.
No.
No,
You only filled out one, permit for,
so this Fred's,
4180,
is that Fred's building?
Bruce Wheeler, 4186. Is that the, one for
You're talking about an address or gallons per day?
Address.
an address? You only filled out one for the old, you only filled out one of these for the old town office, clerk's office.
And I did not fill out one for the piece of land.
No, so you should.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought I did.
You're not on the list.
Okay, thanks.
So how do folks feel about that general thought that
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
this grant pays for the septic tank for the stub? And the landowner would be, as soon as the system goes live, the landowner would be paying the wastewater fee, whether or not there's a building there.
Somehow I vaguely remember, isn't there something about this in the ordinance?
But Jim, isn't that the way it's down?
The scenario that Jim kind of is mixing up a little bit is the scenario where maybe you have an undeveloped parcel and you're trying to get your permits. You don't know for sure that that new cafe is going to get approved or not. You come into the wastewater commission and say, I want an allocation for 500 gallons per day because that's what my cafe needs. And they say, sure, we're going to reserve that for you. And then you have the year or 2 years, Julie Beth could fill you in exactly how we wrote it, to have that reserved before you have to start paying for it.
Right, exactly.
But in that scenario, that developer will need to pay their own tanks and control panels and all of that. Regardless, this scenario, the grant is saying, hey, you might want to do something in the next 5 or 10 years. You get the tank for free. It's ready to go. Whenever you decide to put a building, we're not going to guarantee that you're going to get the other permits you need for that building. That's on you to figure out. But you'll be ready to go. But however, in exchange for getting that free tank, which is, as we know, $15,000 to $20,000, you have to start paying the O&M cost to the town, the $25 to $40 that we're going to settle on, if it's a residential connection.
And we had that discussion yesterday about having a letter to that effect to those landowners, and there's only 3 that we know.
There's only 3. Or we could do a Zoom.
It's not
with
several
them.
parcels, but only 3 landowners.
Yeah. Right, which is great. We could have a conversation with them, whatever's helpful to get them.
And Bruce, we're
Organized.
happy to sit down with you and come up with whatever works best for you. The forum was just trying to get a record of where people stand, but we're happy to talk through details.
Well, what about the historic schoolhouse?
Right.
Signed.
But we can, that one we can almost install right now. We can install that now, right? Because the building's there.
Yeah.
Are we talking next door to where you guys are?
Yeah, the old schoolhouse next
Yeah,
door.
we've been working with Tori and Seth a little bit on that, and we have a kind of a plan for it. But we should all chat about it, because it certainly can change things.
And the library out back.
Yeah.
Which could
Will
be
be a cafe.
which could be a cafe, which would be a
Well,
bigger allocation. So does that, yeah, I don't know if we're taking that into account. The capacity.
I think we ended up flipping around the allocations when we realized the cafe was going to go in the train station. But we're happy to look at all of that and make sure we're landing where we want to.
Any thoughts on that? Comments, questions? Anything else, folks? Are we good?
At some point, once we're really sure on how the gallons are working, Pete, I can do one more run of fees. Just let me know.
Yeah, I was
Or
thinking
Tori
that
and-
recently.
Yeah, Tori also, I am doing my best to work myself out of a job, and so Tori can also, I'll make sure to work with her so that she can do that on an ongoing basis too.
Okay, great.
See where things is at.
Awesome.
Where's Jax? I'm very concerned.
You're right. It was just walking around the table.
We're making too
Okay.
much noise. He went to bed.
Okay, as long as he's okay.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
He was signed up for both locations.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was, so we just treated like a regular